Welcome, friends, to InAProsecco, and joining us is my son Nick Slowey and travel partner on this epic journey through Antarctica, and soon we'll be arriving to New Zealand. Cheers to you, Nick. You've been a great travel partner.
It's been fun. Had a good trip.
It's been an excellent trip. We wanted to touch base today on the second third of our trip. So we embarked on the Lindblad Expeditions Endurance Vessel on January 30th, of December 30th of 2023. And we disembark on January 30th of 2024. So we've had some incredible experiences in the first third of the trip and wanted to share with you what our experience has been in the next 10 days of our journey and voyage through the Antarctica. And we have some insight that hopefully will also be beneficial to you if you're considering coming to Antarctica. And one of the things that I'll say that really I learned about adjusting to this cruise was that we've actually changed time zones 5 different times. So that really was not easy for me. I think that it was my equilibrium has been completely off, and I think you've been able to handle it really well, Nick. But I have not. So I'm adjusting still. How about you?
I do that kind of adjustment for work all the time on boats. I always have a rotating schedule. Every week I rotate 6 hours. So I start from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. One week, and then I'll change 6 hours forward and work 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. and so on and so forth, just rotating constantly. So I'm pretty used to switching up my sleep schedule on a boat.
Well, and for those of us, the listeners that are just joining to hear the series, Nick is a deckhand on Lindblad Expeditions. And so just some background very briefly that as a deckhand, because you are working these 12-hour shifts, but at the end of your contract, you're able to get an incentive benefit trip. And this is why we're on this one. Nick chose Antarctica for his first voyage with Lindblad Expeditions and invited me to join him. And so to have this mother-son voyage means a lot to me. And so again, thank you, Nick, for inviting me to join you on this epic 35-day adventure. So
it's going to be longer than 35 days when it's all said and done.
Yes, that's going to be shared in the next episode, what we've decided to do for our post-cruise, since we're going to be in New Zealand. And Nick, you'll be able to talk about why you wanted to go to New Zealand and why that was part of your decision to make the Antarctica cruise your first choice. As we dive into this next 10 days, our second third of the trip, and the time changes, Nick and I have been really fortunate to meet some wonderful people, and we figured we would, since it's a small enough amount of people, passengers on here, and the crew are incredible as well. So Nick, I know when you told me that you were hoping to be able to obviously connect with passengers, but also that you were able to be excited about your shipmates that joined you on this cruise. They also chose this as their first choice.
Yes, there's 4 other crew members on our trip with us. 2 of them were my roommates on the boat I worked on, the National Geographic Quest. Their names are Grace and Miranda, and I absolutely love them.
And they love you.
Yeah, it's been so much fun to share this cruise with them.
And your fellow shipmate Ray, and another crewmate that is going to be going to your ship right after this cruise, Kennedy. And I've been able to meet their moms, that Kennedy and Rachel brought their mom, so it was kind of cool that I was another crewmate's mother, so we've been able to bond. But I will tell you that the passengers are all fascinating. People that we are meeting as a result of sitting down at lunch and dinner and just learning so much about not only their background, but they've also decided to continue, many of them, past this 35-day cruise to continue through New Zealand, or in your case, your roommates are going to Vietnam. And that's what we're in the process of making sure that we have. Our visa is already done for New Zealand, but we also had to get our online visa for Australia
and
Vietnam. So first, we'll share with you all the fun stuff that occurred. Nick and I were invited to go to a wedding dinner. So a lovely couple, Sasha and Jeff, were married on the ship. The captain actually performed the ceremony, and the captain actually has been able to include his wife and son on this particular voyage because of the holidays. And so Captain Aaron Wood and then his wife Elena and their adorable son Arthur, who has become quite the star of the ship. And it's really lovely, actually, that they're able to join the captain. That Elena and Arthur are also mother and son on a voyage, and so we've been able to really connect with them. And I also love the fact that the family has been able to join the captain, because these are long journeys, and so thinking about the life of a captain and all the crew and how they leave their families for long periods of time, just as you have. And so I really acknowledge Lindblad being able to offer that, so that in the future, hopefully, as you're proceeding towards your captain's license, Nick, and I know that that's something that you're interested in, maybe it gives some hope that there are ways to be able to incorporate family members. But anyhow, the most encouraging thing for me too is just to be able to make friends very easily on the ship. Have you felt the same way?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody is very easy to talk to. They are very interested in what life is like as a deckhand. So it's been very easy to connect with people and have good conversations.
The meals have been excellent. I'll probably end up rolling off the ship after the cruise is done, because breakfast is served, and then in 2 different restaurants, and then you have lunch that is also served in 2 different restaurants. There is afternoon tea every day at 4:00 with finger sandwiches and, of course, wonderful sweets by Chef Sage, and then Chef Sarah with the dinner every night. I mean, all the meals are incredible, and every day is a different theme, and so it never gets boring.
The food is always good.
Now, you have your favorite that you order.
I always order steak. I'm a big steak eater. Love steak.
And you have salad. You have your Caesar salad that you love too. But there's always different options on the menu, and so we never get bored with what we're eating, and everything is so delicious that the fitness room for me, I started to go, but the yoga studio is absolutely beautiful. And so I've really been wanting to try to maintain a little bit of a balance. So as much as I'm eating and drinking, I just want to be able to also try to keep some kind of regimen. And then part of me is reminded that I'm on vacation and to enjoy it. But I would say cheers to the food for sure, to Chef Sarah and Chef Sage for taking care of us. So on the 10th of January was a pretty spectacular day, because it was the first day that we saw killer whales. And we'd heard about the blue whale that had surfaced, and I will tell you, Nick was still asleep, and I have never seen anybody jump out of bed as quickly as Nick did, because he was in a hurry to get the camera. But apparently blue whales are very rare to see in the Antarctic Ocean.
Just in general, they're very deep diving. They don't come up very much, and they're still on the endangered species list. So it's really cool to see one, especially one that's just hanging out on the surface like ours was, and it ended up actually waving to the ship twice. and we saw its fluke. So we got a whole show. It was very special.
So whales eat krill, and this blue whale was on the surface long enough for us to be able to see it, and we got some great photos. And again, a lot of these passengers that are on the ship with us, there are some that are novice photographers learning from the expert photographers from National Geographic, but many are accomplished photographers in their own right. And so the blessing in this is that if we don't get our own shot from, I use my iPhone, and Nick, you have your fancy Canon camera, but if we don't get to be able to have that perfect shot, someone on the ship certainly probably has. And so to be able to really look up close, but that was a big highlight. I know that you were really excited about that, and I was excited about the killer whales. And I didn't know about this, Nick, but there are several types of killer whales. And
There's so many different types of killer whales. There's 5 different species of killer whales just down here in the Antarctic, and then there's different ones all throughout the world. So when you see a killer whale, it's always special because you never know exactly which type you're going to see. Down here we saw a bunch of type C's, which don't leave the Ross Sea. So we were very fortunate enough to see a few killer whales that have rarely ever been sighted by other humans. We saw a couple type B1 and B2s, and those are also just throughout the Antarctic. They don't go very much further north, but the killer whales that I'm more accustomed to in Alaska are the regional killer whales, and those are the biggest killer whales in the world. So it's a different type of feeling to see these ones because they're so rare, and they're just a lot smaller than the ones I'm used to.
I really appreciated learning from the lectures from the naturalists that, like for instance, with the killer whales, we were playing killer whale bingo because there are actually 5 types of killer whales. There's the type A, B1, B2, the C, the D. Did I miss one? Or did I ever?
That's all of them down here.
Okay, so that was the 2 Bs, the type A, B1, B2, and then type C, type D. The B1 killer whale is carnivorous, and so they'll eat the sea lions.
Well, they're all carnivorous. B1s are mammal eaters, so they eat fish and bigger things, whereas B2s and type Cs eat krill. And the krill down here get up to 2 inches big, so it's not a small meal by any means. But the smaller killer whales will actually run from the bigger ones, the type A and B1s, because they are mammal eaters and they will consume mammals, including other smaller killer whales.
And that is what is fascinating about being on these types of the expedition cruises, is that we're getting such an education. And I just thought killer whales existed as one species and didn't know about the types. So that when we got to see them, and that there's even a website that you can take your photos and upload it so that you can track to see what the migration is of these amazing, incredible mammals. And the website is happywhales.com. Is that right?
I don't know the website.
I thought it was happywhales.com, but we'll have to come back and in case that you're interested in seeing how the whales migrate, or if you ever see, if you're also a big fan of the killer whales. And we're also trying to figure out, are they orcas or killer whales? And that was another lecture that we have heard that orcas, it totally depends on the science behind the naming of orcas versus killer whales. I always thought it was orcas. I've been referring to them as orcas, but here on the ship it seems like killer whales is more of the moniker that we use. But to be able to see, at this point we have seen 27 different types of mammals, and and the birds, the number of birds that are coming through Antarctica. So there is a lot of wildlife, and that's why I understand now why there's this intrigue about all of the different seals. And we've seen leopard seal, we've seen crab eater seals, we've seen the
Weddell seal and
seals,
the elephant seal.
and elephant seal. So we're hitting all of the wildlife that is very rare to see on one cruise, at any one cruise. So it feels like, I felt like the first day that we went on the kayak and saw the iceberg roll was a lucky sign for us, and it has continued to be that way. And we also want to distinguish, like, the excursions that we experience are mainly you have two options. Really, we have landings where we'll get onto an island and actually be able to view the wildlife, and that's where the penguins can come closer to us. But there's also zodiac tours, and the zodiac tours are where we aren't able to make a landing yet. We will go around icebergs. That's where we'll see the seals. And whenever we have a landing, almost everybody wants to get off the ship and be able to go and explore, take photos. So we had a beautiful day because our first encounter was at Horseshoe Island. We've been to Peter the First Island. We've been to, I have to use my notes on this, but Cape Royce, Cape Colbeck, Bartlett Inlet for the Zodiac tours. I've gotten some great shots of the icebergs. What are you what are you really proud of the shots that you've gotten, Nick?
Mostly just landscapes. It's really hard to capture just how vast and untouched Antarctica is. Pictures still don't do it justice. I mean, the picture behind us right now doesn't encapsulate how the ice is, really. It's a beautiful picture, but to be down here and to see the ice and just the vastness of it and how big they can get, it's really mind-blowing.
And we learn about icebergs too, that the closer that we were getting to Antarctica and starting to see the icebergs was really just breathtaking, because the tabular icebergs that are flat will also show cracks and caverns where you can see all these hints of blue. And the blue ice is really what you described as when they don't receive oxygen, and so that's why they haven't turned white. There are these just beautiful blue hues that you see in the iceberg. But also, just as we're passing and breaking through fast ice, where we've had some sleepless nights breaking through the fast ice, because you definitely hear it. And the ship is beautiful with this X-bow hull design that actually will allow for the most quiet and really less bumpy ride as possible as you can have for breaking through ice. But every day as we're passing through these seas with the icebergs, it's just breathtaking. What has been your favorite thing for the middle of the trip, I should say?
Just getting on land, just being able to see the different sights from shore. It's really incredible to step on land and trudge through snow, or get on cross-country skis and go across the sea ice. It lets you know how small you are in the world, but you can still make an impact, and it's really cool to be on such a untouched piece of land.
That very few, I mean, if we think about the percentage, it's a very small percentage that ever get an opportunity to come to Antarctica. So without a research purpose, and a lot of the cruises don't go beyond really a 10 to 14 day at the very tip of the Antarctic Peninsula. And so the fact that we're making our way all the way from Argentina to New Zealand, I agree with you, Nick. The landings, to be able to say that we've stepped foot on Antarctica, and to see how pristine it is, but we're also learning about all of the early explorers that have come here, that we've seen the huts that were first established, particularly with Shackleton. And the weather can change so fast that the day that we were going to be making a landing, so because of the logistics, we all sign up at the beginning of the cruise as to which zodiac group we were going to be in, and we're group 2. So there are 4 groups altogether based on the number of passengers. They can the endurance vessel can carry up to as many as 138 passengers, and right now I think we're at 100 and maybe 110 passengers.
About that.
And so with the 4, it's all organized so that the expedition leader assistant will announce, Alex, will announce that they do a rotation so that anytime there are zodiac tours for the excursion or a landing excursion, it's rotated to balance the traffic at base camp. And I think they've done an exceptional job of keeping that so it never feels like we're stumbling all over each other. But we also have to use our badges in a way to make sure that everybody's accounted for, that we sign out when we leave the ship, and we also scan our name tags to show that we have returned to the trip. And then I would say too that it took a little getting used to initially, and everybody has made it back safely, thankfully.
Yeah, Lindblad is very good about not leaving people behind.
Well, and there was that one day where it got really scary because we were the last zodiac, because of our rotation, we were the last group to go in, and we decided not to go on the landing because it became a whiteout, and we saw our expedition leader, Russ, get iced over on his beard and his hair. But it just shows that Antarctica, it's why the blessing in this opportunity is that we're going with experts who've been through Antarctica multiple times, and to be able to feel that we're safe. And that day was really interesting because I know that coming from the ship, it looked like that you couldn't see, but
it was whiteout, you couldn't see.
Yeah, the blizzard that came through, and that people came back and still felt like it was very worth it to go see Shackleton's hut, and that everyone made it back. And I think there were some definitely tales to tell for those who adventured out. We did not, but it was fun to hear the stories of people coming back and saying like it was absolutely worth it. So, that's the nice thing about being on a cruise. You can decide to leave when you want to, or you can decide, you know what, I'm going to just pass on this adventure. And that was your choice too, as far as like sometimes they just don't want to go.
For most Zodiac cruises, not for me.
And why is that?
I just would prefer to go on land. I don't like riding around in the Zodiac for an hour.
And I think a little bit of it is because we talked about how cold it can get on the Zodiac, and really the Zodiac tours are fantastic, and it comes down to hit or miss as far as where you're able to find penguins or the occasional seal, and those who again are wanting just to take photos of the magnificent icebergs and the reflections that come off of it. So there's a little bit of something for everyone. Agreed?
Absolutely.
So when we are considering like how close we are to the last leg of our journey, we are going to be passing once again Drake's Passage.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to be preparing for that. We've had an incredible time though, and again, just memories made with wonderful conversations, because every night after dinner, everyone that wants to go up to what is the ice lounge to just chat. There's games being played. We haven't missed anything that isn't like official entertainment. But however, one of the things that happened during this period is that I had the unfortunate news that my half-brother had passed away. And Nick, I want to commend you because you went into action, because of where we are in Antarctica. We do not have consistent Wi-Fi, and so to be able to even have it at all in Antarctica is a blessing. But I was able to actually get messages through an online app, but I wasn't able to receive a call. And so I had the unfortunate news, ultimately, that my brother, who had been sick in Vietnam with blood cancer, and my sister was trying to reach me, Lucinda was trying to reach me to inform me of some news. And Nick, you knew that I was really concerned and frustrated that I wasn't able to take a call, and so you did something really wonderful. So explain what you did.
I went to the bridge and asked if we could use a satellite phone, and the captain was more than happy to oblige and got my mom on the phone. Took a little bit to get it to work, but once it was working, she was able to make the call.
Captain Wood was obviously he's probably had to handle some of these very difficult situations where passengers, especially on a long journey like this, that if a family member has passed away, that we have the blessing of a satellite phone, and the captain allowed me to go into a private crew room so that I could have privacy to learn the news that my brother had passed. And my brother Tim, with his two daughters that were trying to reach us, to let us know. And so I didn't have a chance or an opportunity to talk with them, but after I talked with my sister Lucinda to get the news, Nick, you were really great to just, first of all, ask the captain if that was a possibility, because I would have never known that that was even an option. And so the crew have also been amazing to just be very considerate, and I spent a couple days in the cabin wanting to just have some time and space to kind of just reflect on things. And there was one night where the crew band was playing, and I thought maybe I would join. I didn't, but I found out later that Nick actually went up to perform. So talk about that, Nick.
I don't know. Nobody wanted to go up and do anything. So I figured making a fool out of myself in front of all of these old people wouldn't be an issue. And I ended up messing up like I knew I would, right at the beginning too. I was singing too quickly, and I was singing Your Man by Josh Turner. And
a country song?
Yeah. So within like the first 15 seconds of the actual singing verse of the song, I messed up and I just started ad-libbing. And they enjoyed it. Passengers enjoyed it, the crew enjoyed it, and kind of just blacked out the memory.
What I will say is that it really actually brought me joy, because as I was really just kind of grieving in the room by myself, and Nick, I appreciate you giving me the time and space as well, and just to, people, because of how intimate the vessel can be, because there's only just over 100 passengers, and just needing some time away, that I loved that you went and you decided to go ahead, and even if it was impromptu, to have a performance. It really put a smile on my face to hear about all the passengers saying, oh my gosh, Nick went up and it was great. And even though you went through the lyrics really fast, and that I know that not everybody knew the song, but everybody enjoyed it. And that was the thing, is that we don't need the entertainment necessarily that you would have on traditional cruises, and that to have the passengers participate like that, it was a proud mama moment, that so many people came to me and said, oh my gosh, you should have seen your son. And maybe that was just it, is that as I was having my time, Nick had his time in the spotlight. So I'm glad you're enjoying the trip as well, and it meant a lot to me that you were so helpful in a time like that, because I imagine that people have had unfortunate news during a cruise, and I will say that Lindblad handled it very well. And again, thanks and appreciation to the captain for handling it. And I've learned that he's had to not only handle this for other passengers, but he's had to experience it himself. And I also learned that the captain has had the opportunity to be, to officiate weddings 7 times now. So with the sad side of the story is sometimes being away for so long, there's a lot of positive as well. And I feel that is the case, that I'm really enjoying my time with you, Nick, and being able to really learn about you as a person. It gives me such joy when people at dinner or in any conversation that you just light up about your job and being on the water and your experiences, because yes, maybe they're older, but they love hearing from people your age, because your excitement gives them excitement and brings back a lot of memories for them. So I hope that you listeners are inspired by the idea of being able to travel is, I think, a way of getting ourselves out of our comfort zones, and that being able to also, being in close quarters like this, that we're encouraged to learn about other people and their stories, and that their why as to the reasoning of taking a journey like this. And my why has become, immediately I was just very excited. As soon as Nick invited me, I said, of course. I mean, the fact that I'd be able to go to Antarctica, and the fact that my son invited me to go with him meant a lot. But it's also an opportunity. This time away gives me pause, and I wonder that if I would have been home, if I were to have learned in the daily hustle and bustle of life, that when I learned about Tin, my brother, passing away, how I would have handled it differently, or what kind of action I would have taken immediately versus being allowed to feel. At first I felt helpless, and that there was no way that I was going to be able to get there sooner than when we would be disembarking on January 30th. But the pausing time was very helpful, and also for Nick to be so flexible in having to get your visa for Vietnam. And so originally we were going to be going to Singapore and Hong Kong, but now Nick gets a chance to see where I was born and to meet his cousins that he's only heard about. So unfortunately you're not going to be able to meet your uncle, but you'll meet family, and we'll have that time together in Vietnam.
We'll be spending Chinese New Year in Vietnam instead of Hong Kong.
And in Vietnam they celebrate it as Tet. So yes, this is something that I've been dreaming about, to bring my family to Vietnam, and under these circumstances now Nick gets to go. But yes, to be able to celebrate and bring in the new Lunar New Year, celebrating Tet in Vietnam. So with that, we will continue with our journey, our final leg, very soon, as the Endurance Vessel finishes our 35-day epic adventure through Antarctica, and then ending in New Zealand. So if you enjoyed this episode, please please share, and comment. But please do offer any suggestions on, if you have any inquiries of questions you might have about our journey. We're more than happy to share. So until next time, in A Prosecco, we will see you. Join us soon for the next drop. Cheers.
If you enjoyed this episode of In A Prosecco, be sure to subscribe so you're notified when a new episode is posted. Rate and review the show, and please do comment and share ideas for topics that are important to you. A friend who cares is a friend who shares. Here's a toast to you on your re-inspirement journey. Cheers.